hope you are enjoying your visit to the Eiffel Tower. Here, from the top of the tower, you can see the wonderful city of Paris. Over there, you can see the Louvre Museum, one of the most famous art museums in the world. And over here, you can see the beautiful Seine River, which runs right through the middle of Paris. People love to have picnics near the Seine. If you look closely over there, in the distance, you'll see Longchamp Racecourse, where horse races are held. It's great fun to dress up and go to the races. And over here, you will see a puffin.
Bonjour.
Hello!
Whoa!
Look out below! Phew!
You certainly know how to make an entrance.
I just wish I knew how to make a landing. Excuse me, ma'am. I should introduce myself. My name is Puffer. I am here to write an article about Impressionism.
Ah, a writer. Pleased to meet you, Puffer. My name is Mary. You came to the right place. France is where Impressionism began.
Do you know where I might find some Impressionist artwork?
I surely do. As a matter of fact, I'm on my way to see some Impressionist artwork right now. Care to join me?
I'd love to. This must be the place.
Bonjour. Welcome to the art show. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, what is Impressionism?
That's an excellent question, Puffer. Impressionism is an art style that started right here in France. The Impressionist artists changed the way paintings could be made.
How did they do that?
Before Impressionism, artists usually worked in studios. The subjects they painted were often kings and queens or scenes from ancient history.
I see. Before Impressionism, artists weren't quite so free to paint what they wanted.
That is true. The ideas of Impressionism helped to change that. Impressionist artists liked to work outdoors as well as in their studios. They painted the people and places they saw in their everyday lives. Light at different times of day was also important to the Impressionists. They knew that the time of day in which they painted made a big difference in the way things looked. Something seen in bright morning sunlight can look very different on a cloudy afternoon. Painting outdoors in changing sunlight meant that the Impressionists had to paint quickly. They didn't have time to carefully blend their brushstrokes together or to add details.
I think I understand.
Now that you know a little about Impressionism, are you ready to see an Impressionist painting?
Yes, please.
Ah, here's a good place to start. The first painting is by Edouard Manet. He was born in Paris to an important family. When he grew up, Mr. Manet's family wanted him to become a judge like his father, but Edouard had different ideas. He wanted to become an artist. Mr. Manet's first paintings were about religious stories and history, but later he was one of the first artists to show ideas about Impressionism. This painting is called Races at Longchamp. It's about a horse race.
And an exciting painting it is. It's as if we are standing on the racetrack right in front of the horses and they're running toward us.
Mr. Manet was the first artist to paint horses head-on like this. It makes the painting seem a little dangerous, don't you think?
Yes, ma'am. I don't think that I'd really want to be standing on the racetrack in front of those horses.
Me either. But being able to look at the painting this way gives us the feeling of being at the race. It helps us to feel the emotions of the riders and horses.
I see what you mean. The legs of the horses in front let me know that those horses are running as fast as they can. They seem to be tied for first place. Which horse do you think will win?
I don't know about the winner, but they all seem to be trying their best to be the first across the finish line.
Seeing the action from the racetrack also helps us to feel the excitement of watching the race.
That is true. From here we can see the crowd. I can almost hear them cheering.
And because Mr. Manet didn't show details, the crowd is a blur. Maybe that's what the people looked like as the riders raced past them.
Maybe so.
Going to the horse races must be a lot of fun.
Yes, and it was a favorite subject for the Impressionists. They loved to paint pictures of people having fun.
What other kinds of subjects did the Impressionists like to paint?
The next painting is a perfect example. It was painted by Pierre-Auguste Renoir. Mr. Renoir was born in Limoges, France, which is famous for its porcelain dishes. When he was only 13 years old, Mr. Renoir became an apprentice to a china painter in Paris. His job was to paint decorations on dishes, cups, and saucers. When he grew up, Mr. Renoir decided to become an artist and enrolled in art school. While he was in art school, Mr. Renoir and some friends began to paint out of doors. This painting is called Luncheon of the Boating Party. It's about a group of friends enjoying an afternoon by the Seine River.
I wonder if Mr. Renoir had everyone pose very still while he painted this picture.
I don't think all of those people could have held their poses that long.
Do you think that Mr. Renoir made sketches of these people and then took those sketches to his studio where he made the painting?
Probably so.
What do you like best about the painting, Mary?
I like the way Mr. Renoir shows the light of a warm and sunny day.
Me too. All of the white in the painting helps to give it a bright, cheery feeling.
I think I know some of the people in this painting.
You do?
The girl playing with the dog is Mr. Renoir's wife. And the gentleman sitting backward in his chair is another well-known artist, Gustave Caillebotte.
Aha! So Mr. Renoir painted pictures of his friends instead of kings and queens.
Indeed.
Mr. Renoir's painting of friends having lunch together is very different from Mr. Monet's painting about a horse race.
But they are both excellent examples of Impressionist painting.
Impressionist paintings don't all look the same, do they?
I should say not. They often show the same ideas, but Impressionist painters show those ideas in many different ways.
I'm ready to see another painting. What about you, Mary?
Yes, sir. The next painting is by an artist named Edgar Degas. Mr. Degas was born and raised in Paris. When he began to study art, Mr. Degas spent a lot of time copying from artwork at the Louvre Museum, where he met artists like Edouard Manet. Mr. Degas, Mr. Manet, and some of the other artists soon became friends. Later on, they sometimes painted similar subjects. Mr. Degas loved the ballet and opera. He drew many pictures of the singers and dancers. Because Mr. Degas also liked photography, his drawings and paintings sometimes show the same ideas as photographs. The title of this painting is The Dance Class. It shows a practice room filled with young ballerinas. The gentleman is their teacher, and in the background are the dancers' mothers.
I like the way Mr. Degas placed the people in this painting. A photographer might pose a picture like this.
Why do you say that?
See how the ballerinas are not in the center of the painting and how the picture goes off the page?
Those are ideas that an Impressionist artist might use too.
I also like the way that Mr. Degas helps me to see the most important parts of the painting. Because the ballerinas are each dressed in white and they are lined up along one wall, my eye is led to the ballerina who is posing for the dance master.
That's a very good observation, Puffer.
I really like the point of view of this painting. It makes me feel as if I just walked into the practice hall and maybe I'm standing on a step above the dance floor.
Unusual points of view are often seen in Impressionist paintings. Why do you think that Mr. Degas' painting is an example of Impressionism?
I can think of 3 reasons. First, the subject is real-life ballerinas learning to dance. That's an everyday sort of idea. Second, we can see the brush strokes. And third, we see the dance class from an unusual point of view.
You're becoming quite the expert on Impressionism, Puffer. Are you ready to look at another painting?
Yes, please. That would be splendid.
The next picture was painted by Camille Pissarro. Mr. Pissarro was born on the island of St. Thomas. His parents wanted Camille to join the family business, but when he grew up, Mr. Pissarro moved to Paris to become an artist. Mr. Pissarro's first paintings were realistic landscapes, but his later paintings became impressionistic. When his paintings were not accepted into traditional art shows, Camille Pissarro and some of his artist friends decided to have their own exhibitions in Paris. Some of Mr. Pissarro's best-known paintings are of the city of Paris. The Place du Havre is the title of this painting by Camille Pissarro.
This painting reminds me of looking out an upstairs window onto a busy city street below.
It is said that Mr. Pissarro sometimes painted what he saw outside his apartment window.
Is this a real place, Mary?
Oh, yes. Place du Havre is a real street in Paris. It is near a train station where lots of people would be coming and going.
Ah, that explains why the street is so crowded and full of action.
I like the way Mr. Pissarro shows that action with blurry brushstrokes, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
I also like the way Mr. Pissarro shows sunshine in the painting.
The buildings and street seem to reflect the light of a sunny day.
You're a very good art observer, Puffer.
Thank you. Looking at artwork is like solving a mystery. You have to look for clues and then put them all together. I could almost hear the sounds of a busy city street in Mr. Pissarro's painting.
Place du Havre is a very loud place indeed. All the people, horses, and carriages make lots of noise.
Do Impressionist paintings ever show quiet, relaxing places?
Oh my, yes. As a matter of fact, the next painting is a perfect example. It's an Impressionist artwork about a quiet, beautiful place, and it was painted by Mr. Claude Monet. Mr. Monet was born in Paris, but his family later moved to northern France. He grew up in the busy port town of Le Havre. When he was a young boy, Claude earned money by drawing cartoons. When he grew up, Mr. Monet began to paint subjects from the world around him. At first, Mr. Monet didn't sell many paintings, but he never gave up. After a while, Mr. Monet decided to move to the little village of Giverny. He planted lovely gardens around his home. Some of Mr. Monet's best-known paintings are of his garden in Giverny. The title of this painting is The Japanese Footbridge.
This must be Mr. Monet's garden.
Indeed it is.
I feel as if the garden is all around me.
That's because Mr. Monet shows only plants, water, and the bridge. There isn't a sky.
I wonder why he didn't paint a sky.
By not showing the sky, the garden and bridge become the most important parts of the picture.
And that makes us feel as if we are in the garden.
Right you are, my friend.
I also like the way that Mr. Monet shows the water. It's as if the water is a mirror. Everything around the pond is reflected in the water.
Exactly.
You sure do know a lot about Impressionism, Mary. How did you become such an expert?
I'm about to show you the answer. Bonjour, gentlemen.
Bonjour, Mary. Wonderful art show, don't you think?
It's an excellent show, if I do say so myself. Puffer, let me introduce you to my friends. Edouard Manet, Pierre-Auguste Renoir, Camille Pissarro, Claude Monet, and Edgar Degas. We just spent the day admiring their paintings.
I am very pleased to meet you, sirs.
Puffer and I were just about to look at the last painting in the show.
I think you will know the artist who painted it.
Who might that be?
It's by an artist named Mary Cassatt.
Mary, that's you!
So it is, so it is.
Were you born here in Paris?
Oh, no. I'm originally from the United States. I was born in a small town in Pennsylvania, but I grew up in Philadelphia. That's where I first studied to be an artist.
Why did you move to France?
My family always loved to travel. When I was a child, we traveled all over Europe. I got to visit great cities like London, Berlin, and Paris. When I was a little older, I persuaded my parents to allow me to move to Paris. That's when I took private art lessons and often copied artwork in the Louvre Museum. After a while, I got to know Edgar Degas and began to paint family scenes in the Impressionist style. Some of my best-known paintings are of mothers and children. I call this painting The Boating Party.
This painting seems a little different than the other paintings we have seen.
Yes, it does. That is because I became interested in prints that were made by Japanese artists. Instead of short brushstrokes and blurry bits of pastel colors like most Impressionist artwork, this painting shows bolder colors and shapes.
But there are still ideas from Impressionism in this painting.
Yes, indeed.
I feel as if I am standing up in the boat and looking down on the people. Showing unusual points of view is an idea from Impressionism.
Right.
The woman and child seem to be the center of interest. That would be a good subject for an Impressionist artist.
Right again.
The painting reminds me a little bit of a photograph. It's not symmetrically balanced. One side of the painting shows a sail, and the other side shows a man rowing the boat. The sail and the boat go off the page, too.
Photographs and Japanese prints show those kinds of art ideas.
What a terrific painting, Mary!
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
That was a wonderful art show, Mary. Thank you for showing it to me.
It was my pleasure, Puffer. Fly safely.
Wings? Check. Landing gear? Check. And away I go! I hope you enjoyed learning about the Impressionist art style and meeting a few Impressionist artists. The next time you read an art book or visit an art museum, look for Impressionist paintings, drawings, and sculptures. Try to find all the ideas about Impressionism in the works of art. Until next time, goodbye!